Canadians, Americans, members of the Commonwealth, and patriots the world over. Welcome to the show that tells you what they won't, exposing the fake news, conspiracies, and corruption within institutions that govern our lives, and red-pilling the nations one fact at a time. It's Weathering the Storm with your host, Canada's Red Pill, Billy Joyce. Good day, folks, and welcome to another show. I was going to do a show today on the Inspector General report, but it hadn't come out yet when I came across other stuff that really got my blood pressure rising, let's say. This video, I'm sure you see the title of it, and people are probably wondering, what does it mean? I want my Canada back. It may be gone for good. Well, for those of you who've been following my channel, you've seen a lot of the videos that I've done in the past, and I'll cover them at the end of the video. For those of you who are new to the channel, I encourage you to watch some of my past videos because I've seen a lot of people putting comments that I should cover topics that I've already covered. So I will go over that later in this presentation. The presentation today is not scripted. What it is, however, is a series of screenshots that I put into a Microsoft Word document so that I could go through them one at a time, and then that would make the editing at the end of the video a lot easier. Today I'm going to cover a lot of different topics. It all started this morning after I was done with my work at the radio, and I went into the Able Danger Discord group, and one of the members in there pointed me to the government response to the 10th report of the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage entitled Taking Action Against Systemic Racism and Religious Discrimination, Including Islamophobia. And it's addressed to the Honorable Julie Dabruzin, PCMP. Look, I've had people asking me to get my cats in a video, and she came to me just to see what was going on to get petted, and now my dog realizes that I have the cat in my arms, so now I may be in for a scrap. I might be literally in the middle of a fight. So now she wants to go because the dog, and you're probably going to hear the dog chase her. No, oh, did you hear? Did you hear her growl at him? What's wrong, buddy? Now you're jealous. You may as well make an appearance too. Come here, boy. Come here. Come on. Hey, Rusty. Hi, boy. Hi, boy. Hi, buddy. Hi. Hi. You miss Mommy, don't you? Hey, you miss Mommy and the girls, don't you? Yeah. Yeah. They're gonna be back soon. They're gonna be back soon. Okay, now that I've paid attention to 2/3 of my pets, my wife has been gone away for meetings, and I've been running the house solo. My kids have been sleeping at my mother's because I wake up too early to go to work, so they've been sleeping there and catching the bus there. And today they're actually gone to visit my first cousin's son. So I guess that would be like their second cousin once removed. He'd be my second cousin that's a baby, and they're gone to visit him, and I'm here doing this video because as I was saying, this response to the 10th report of the Standing Committee against systemic racism and religious discrimination, including Islamophobia. Notice Christianity is not mentioned there. Well, this was all started by the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage back in January or February, I believe, and that committee was comprised of, at the time when this was formulated, Heidi Fry, who's a Liberal from Vancouver. She's also member of the Queen's Privy Council. Again, this is where my past videos become useful because some of the information that I'm sharing here, I've gone into some pretty detailed stuff in the past on the Queen's Privy Council, our affiliation to the Queen, our affiliation to the Commonwealth, and who really runs these countries. Vice Chair, of course, they had a Conservative there, but Queen's Privy Council. Peter Van Loan, member of the Queen's Privy Council as well. Then there's Pierre Nantel, who's NDP, so they kind of go chair, vice chairs, all three political parties, everything seems cute, but two Queen's Privy Council, and a former CBC News person, or a CBC person. Why is that relevant? Well, 2 of our last 3 governor generals, their previous qualifications were CBC. So you tell me. And what they did is they put together a series of recommendations way back when. I'll go through a couple of the recommendations, but I'll have all this in the description of the video. I'll have all these links with the full details in the video. What I'm getting at here is why I want my Canada back. So I grew up in a Canada where you could have an opinion. You could tell someone something. There was this saying when I was growing up, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. And that applied to feelings as well. We were allowed to insult each other and criticize each other. Heck, there were some times where things would break out into a fist fight, shake hands afterwards, and you were best buddies again. You just got it over with. You had something on your chest, you got it out. Nowadays, it seems that anyone who gets offended by anything is almost a cause for a hate crime. So when I saw this letter addressed to this committee, basically stating, I went to see the report. I'll have that in the description as well. They basically approved everything in there. Millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars is going to go towards this stuff. And I'm just wondering, because when you look at the recommendations they made at face value, they look cute. They look perfectly okay. It's when you read between the lines and you look at what's going on, what's really going on in our society, and then you wonder, are they really trying to protect everybody against hate crimes, or everybody against discrimination, or just certain people? And if there are only certain people that our government are standing up for, who are those people, and who's still being discriminated against, and why, if we have supposed anti-discrimination laws? So I'm just putting these things up for you. You can look at them. Some of them really stood out for me. There's recommends that the Government of Canada establish uniform pan-Canadian guidelines and standards for the collection and handling of hate crime data and hate incident data. This would include efforts to standardize the definition and the interpretation by law enforcement of hate crimes. So you've got a committee that's formed by people who are members of the Queen's Privy Council and Liberals. You've got a majority Liberal government in power, so they're going to push this through. And we say that we live in a democracy. We say that we live in a transparent kind of government. We say that the government's there to represent us. You really think your member of parliament, if he was against any of these things and he's Liberal, would vote against the Liberals? You know what happens there? You lose perks. They can't take away your base MP salary because you're an MP, you're elected. But if you were, let's say, a member of the Liberal Party and part of the caucus, and you had a ministerial position, and suddenly you came out and spoke out against abortion, chances are you'd lose your seat as minister. Heck, you might even get kicked out of the Liberal Party. But I digress. So that recommendation was one of them, and then there are other ones. You go to recommendation 21, recommends the Government of Canada increase multiculturalism funding dedicated to eradicating systemic racism and religious discrimination, and to promote greater intercultural understanding and awareness. In particular, funding should be dedicated to groups whose statistics demonstrate are the most acutely affected by systemic racism and religious discrimination. So the question I have is, what happens when your own government is actually guilty of doing just that, but you can't touch them? And what do I mean by that? Well, recently, there have been a couple of cases where if you were Christian, the government has imposed on Christians circumstances or policies that prevent any group that is against abortion from accessing funding for Canada Summer students. So if you're a devout Christian who believes life is a gift from God and that God formed you in the womb before you were even born and knew every hair that was on your head, if you believe that, and you could not live with yourself, well, it's impossible, really. You can't be pro-abortion and claim to be a Christian. You just can't. Again, I'll give the exceptions, and they're exceptions that there's only one of them really. If the mother's life is in danger, well, then abortion is necessary. Some would say rape, some would say incest. I'd say I could live with that. I'm on the fence. you know. But if you take that position and you're the leader of a group that wants to hire a summer student because you do stuff in your community that's not related to religion at all, but the group does, everyone in that group believes that abortion's bad, you can't access government funding for summer students unless you check off that you're in favor of pro-choice, that you're okay with the abortion laws. Another recommendation that comes out of this, I'm trying to find it. Recommends that the Government of Canada develop a public awareness campaign to promote diversity and inclusion. Recommends that Government of Canada develop an education campaign to promote media literacy. What does that mean? To promote media literacy. Maybe the media needs to learn literacy. Maybe the media needs to learn how to properly find out the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And then look into that further and start connecting more dots, kind of like what I try to do. But again, I don't have a university degree in journalism, so I don't know what I'm doing. Because that's what they tell us in school, is that you can only be qualified to do something if you followed the indoctrination that they set up for you. So we have extreme left-wing people establishing laws that may forever change the landscape of our land, and Christians, conservative Christians, don't seem to have any rights anymore. As a matter of fact, we're being discriminated against. But if I were to quote the Quran or quote a violent passage out of the Quran, well, for example, I'll probably get this video probably won't be monetized for the simple reason that and you'll notice I'm not gonna insult, I'm not gonna incite to violence, I'm not gonna incite hatred or anything like that. I'm just defending a point of view that's rarely defended in the mainstream media. And you will never ever find anywhere CBC, CTV, Global, or any of those people covering the stuff I'm covering and giving you the perspective that I'm giving you. And you must wonder why. How can all these journalists go through school, all these different education systems, and never ever present some of the stuff that I present to you? Now, I'll admit I'm wrong on some of the stuff because a lot of it is the connecting of the dots. But shouldn't that be what journalism is? Present facts. Let the public decide what the facts are. Our job is just to present it. And yes, we can offer what people would call editorials, or like I consider myself a journalist, but I'd also consider myself a pundit, and I'd also consider myself an entertainer, because I try to mix everything together to make it entertaining so that you keep watching the video, so you don't shut it off and actually engage in what it is I'm trying to tell you. Because oftentimes we'll accept something more easily if you get a chuckle while you're hearing it. And what I'm pointing out here is how all these people, like you got the Queen's Privy Council, you've got Queen's Privy Council, you've got Queen's Council, you've got Queen's Privy Council, and CBC members that are making decisions like this. And Christians seem to be being alienated. And I'll keep going with some other stuff. And the reason this kind of fueled a fire under my butt is when I saw this, all these recommendations, and then I read through the letter that was sent by Melanie Joly, the Minister of Heritage Canada. Well, I knew basically that it's a done deal. And it brought me to memes that I saw last night, because ever since the G7 summit between Trump and Trudeau and Macron and Merkel and May and the rest of them that were there, all I've been hearing in Canada, all I've been seeing on the news, all I've been seeing on social media are these memes and constant insults. I mean, this one meme of President Trump, driving over a Canadian soldier in a supposed D-Day scenario with a golf cart. I mean, come on. Really? Or Trump and Kim sucking face. Really? Or putting Justin Trudeau there with a glass of milk in his hand with this innocent look on his face while portraying Kim Jong-un and Bashar al-Assad as evil monsters. Donald Trump's axis of evil. Now again, this is where you could go back and look at a dozen different videos that I've done. Well, maybe not a dozen. but a lot of videos that I've done covering these topics. And then you can ask yourself if Justin Trudeau is really as innocent as everyone thinks he is. And ask yourselves, it's like last night I got into an argument with a friend of mine on Facebook, and basically she's the one that posted this Kim Jong-un, Bashar al-Assad, and Justin Trudeau. And what I was getting at was that Trudeau apparently said one thing inside the G7 summit and then turned around and stabbed Trump in the back and started talking tough afterwards. And that got us on the topic where the person I was talking with rebutted with, yes, because we know Donald Trump is also trustworthy. And then I responded with, well, what makes us think that our politicians are so trustworthy, or that our politicians don't do anything that's crazy? Because if we're gonna believe that Canadian politicians are really that trustworthy and really that morally superior, well, I guess we have to look at some of the track record that there is. Like, for example, recently, Michelle Rempel, an MP for Alberta, and I like a lot of stuff about Michelle Rempel. There are other things I don't like, and I'll get to that later. But Michelle Rempel brought up a case where the Supreme Court actually sided with the accused in a I'm going to call it animal husbandry case, because apparently that's the new political term, but you can see what it says on the screen in front of you. Okay, now Michelle Rempel has been calling out the Canadian government to change these laws because the judge decided that this was a matter for politicians, that the judge is there to uphold the law, and the law as it's written is the way it's written. Now you're seeing what's written on the screen. You're seeing why this man was acquitted of animal husbandry, because that's the new politically correct term for what you're seeing on the screen. And then if you want details of what you're seeing on the screen, well, here's a little clip of Michelle Rempel describing exactly what this man was accused of. And then ask yourself, are we really morally superior in Canada?
That the loophole that happened in this case was that the defendant had smeared peanut butter on his daughter's genitals and was not convicted of bestiality, because in Canada, bestiality is only defined as a penetrative act. So
now, if that's not enough, here's another wonderful article about something else our government wants to impose, and it's that, you know, that wonderful criminal code provision on a particular kind of sex. And apparently the Liberals have been thinking about this for a while. Look at Justin Trudeau. Legalizing blank sex for 16-year-old teens is not Canada's #1 priority, says the Debate Post. But there's Justin Trudeau with his hands in a heart shape with a pink background. And they want to decrease the consent for sex, that sex, to 16 years old. And of course, it was, I believe, the Huffington Post. I could be wrong, but you'll see that it was the LGBTQ community that pushed to have this age of consent down to 16 years old. So again, I ask, if someone is a conservative Christian and these kind of laws are being applied in our society right in front of our faces, do we have rights to oppose it? If I oppose it, is it hate crime if I oppose it? It's a question. I'm not taking a position, though you may be able to guess what my position is. But what rights do we have? It's like a Christian that believes in the Bible, believes that the rainbow was given to us after the flood as a sign of God's love. The rainbow has been hijacked by a certain community. Am I allowed to be upset about that? As a Christian? Am I allowed? Or is it only certain people of certain skin color and of certain faith in the religion of peace? Is it only them that have rights in Canada now? I wonder how my great-grandfather would feel. I wonder how the people that fought in World War I, World War II would feel, knowing that this is what they fought for. Would they be happy with the fact that our Prime Minister appeared on a debate post article with his hands in the shape of a heart with a pink backdrop? The same Prime Minister whose family's foundation, according to the Daily Mail, matches, and the Daily Mail, what they're saying is, here's what the logo is for people who like young people. That one there is the one for boys that you're looking at now, and this one here is the one for girls that you're looking at now. And then you've got our Prime Minister with a pink backdrop making a heart shape on his chest, and the shadow on his chest makes a double heart, if you want to look at it close enough, with a pink backdrop. But people want me to believe that our Canadian politicians are more virtuous than President Trump. Really? And I know I'm picking on the Liberals here, but I just gave you two examples of how what our government's doing to supposedly be diverse and multicultural is actually alienating and ignoring and walking on a pretty large portion of Canadians, last time I checked. European Christian descent or Christian descent, period, in Canada was pretty huge, either Catholic or Protestant. Last time I checked, strict Catholics and strict Protestants, and I don't mean the Roman Catholic hierarchy because I have a whole other issue with them. But last time I checked, most Catholics and Protestants are against abortion, unless the three reasons I mentioned earlier, especially the one where if the mother is in danger of dying. Now, another thing I don't like in Canada right now is the fact that politicians, the leaders of certain parties, can demote, can chastise, can minimize, can mock when someone within their party doesn't toe the party line. And it's not just the Liberals doing that. Andrew Scheer just did it to Maxime Bernier. Now, Maxime Bernier just so happens to be the MP that when the Conservatives were holding their leadership race, if I'd have been a card-holding PC that could have voted, Maxime Bernier is the guy I would have voted for. Because he seemed to me to be the most patriotic, didn't come off as a soy boy. I mean, you look at Maxime Bernier and then you take a look at Andrew Scheer, and which one looks more like a soy boy? Globalist. And why did Bernier get moved from the Tory bench, from the Tory front bench? He got removed because basically he wasn't towing the party line. And he wrote a book, and in the book he revealed how certain factions within the Conservative Party were in bed with millionaires. Sound familiar? Remember how President Trump ran in the United States against the swamp? And how the swamp went right into Hollywood and big corporations and everything else? Do you really think we don't have that same swamp here? And it looks like Maxime Bernier was calling out that swamp because, I'm trying to see here, a Conservative MP spoke to CBC News on the condition he not be identified, and said Bernier was removed because of his decision last week to post a chapter from his book on his website. In the chapter, MP said Scheer's victory as party leader was owed to fake Conservatives who only joined the party to defend supply management in the dairy industry. What were the tariffs that we were talking about? What tariffs were President Trump talking about? What was more offensive than his attack on supply management was the attack on our supporters, quite frankly calling them fake Conservatives or nefarious paper millionaires. Now, Bernier, of course, answered back. He says, I realize that whatever I write, it will always be interpreted as me creating division and challenging our leader. Bernier wrote that the book was intended to focus on ideas, not the leadership campaign. After consideration, for the sake of maintaining harmony within our party, I have decided to postpone its publication indefinitely. Shut down. An elected member of Parliament is not allowed to write a book and voice his opinion without being chastised by his party's leader. Conservative. It's not just the Liberals. And earlier, I was kind of praising Michel Rempel, but I want Michel Rempel to realize that I didn't forget the fact that she denied to sign a petition that I put forward when it was announced publicly that Canada was accepting literal ISIS fighters back into Canada for reintegration. Yeah, I put a petition together. I got the proper amount of people to sign on to it so that she could review it to either endorse it or not. It was called the Petition to the House of Commons and Parliament Assembled. And it was, whereas Ralph Goodale, Minister of Public Safety, is on the record admitting that literal ISIS fighters are living in Canada, 60 with possibly 100 more returning soon. Whereas Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister, is on the record admitting the same and that deprogramming was necessary for ISIS fighters he calls Islamist travelers or extremist travelers. Whereas Sections 83.18 and Sections 83.181 of the Criminal Code of Canada do not require an offence to be committed for conviction, intent is sufficient, and Sections 83.19 and 83.191 could also apply. Whereas the prison sentences for the crimes committed by ISIS worldwide would certainly carry sentences of more than 10 to 14 years. Whereas the RCMP is an agency of the Ministry of Public Safety Canada and has the mandate to uphold Canada's criminal code, we, the undersigned, Billy, William Joyce, Ken S., Cora L., Marcel B., Shane S., Chris F., James L., and Sean H., call upon the government to 1. Instruct the RCMP to enforce already existing laws and proceed with the immediate arrest and incarceration of every single Canadian who willingly traveled to fight with or help ISIS or any other internationally recognized terror group, and or 2. Create a new law that states that anyone who leaves Canada with the intent to help a terrorist organization actively involved in fighting against Canada or our allies in any way immediately forfeit their citizenship to this great country. So that's what I submitted, and read it carefully. There's nothing about hatred in there towards anyone. It's about love of our forces, love of our country, love of Canadians, love of what my ancestors built. And anyone who's going to move here, or anyone that lives here that wants to go fight with a terrorist organization against Canadian military men and women, don't deserve citizenship here. I don't care. I don't care what anybody's opinion is on it. So when you go look, sponsor, it'll show declined by Michelle Rempel on December 31st at 8:16 p.m. So what I did is just today I sent a request to Maxime Bernier to see if he'd sponsor it after being railroaded by the leaders in his party. Let's see if you'll actually do that. And if you're wondering if YouTube is the only place where I try to pick apart politicians or pick apart what's going on in the world, I think you'd enjoy my Twitter page, because I often get into some pretty interesting Twitter battles or Twitter tweets, whatever you want to call them, with a lot of people. And my Twitter handle is at Billy Joyce, capital B, capital J, 1976. There you go. You know my age. At Billy Joyce, 1976, capital B, capital J. And you'll see that I've tagged Michelle Rempel, Andrew Scheer, Rex Murphy, Jesse Waters, Alex Jones, Maxime Bernier, President Trump, Aaron Beswick from the Chronicle Herald. There anyone listening? I love Canada and Canadians, but all political parties here seem to be in bed with the globalists. And I posted one of the videos I did on Canada called Canadistan. And then I replied to Monsieur Bernier. I responded to him in French. Je suis un patriote acadien de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Tu me donnes l'impression d'être un homme d'intégrité. S'il vous plaît, pourriez-vous jeter un coup d'œil à mon post YouTube? Voici un des vidéos dont j'ai produit. And I would invite all of you to go check out that Canadistan video. Today, or yesterday, Andrew Scheer was on Twitter, and he was, of course, putting the Liberals to the fire in the House of Commons, where nothing he says matters because the Liberals are going to vote whatever way they want, but we got to put on a good show. So Andrew Scheer says, Justin Trudeau has allowed a crisis to develop at our border, hurting those who try to come to Canada through the correct process. That's not fair. So I responded to Mr. Scheer with, if the PC party were truly conservative, one of you globalist shills would have endorsed my petition to arrest returning ISIS fighters in accordance with Section 83.181 of Canada Criminal Code. At real Donald Trump, can something be done to protect Canadians from globalist puppets? One of two. And then I followed that up with at Michel Rempel, at Maxime Bernier, at Candace Bergen, at Jesse Waters, Tommy Lauren, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity. Maybe some of the fine journalists I mentioned can expose this. Admitted ISIS fighters are free in our country. And then I post the link. So if you're new to my channel and you're wondering, you may think I've missed certain topics. I'm going to post some screenshots here of my channel, and I'm starting from the very top of my channel, and I'm going to work my way down, and you will see circled in red the videos that I feel, if you want content on Canada and what's really going on in Canada and my perspective and my take on that, these are the ones that I've highlighted. And there are some of them, surprisingly, that have very, very, very low viewership. And there's something going on here in Canada. I don't know if like Twitter Canada and YouTube Canada and these things are different than what's going on in the US. But I had people send me messages today telling me that they couldn't share my tweets, they couldn't retweet, they couldn't like even. So I persisted pretty much all day and kept tweeting anyway. But what you're seeing here are all videos that I've done in the past that I think you'd find interesting, especially those for Canadians that are watching. I think you'd probably want to see the Canadistan show, and that would have been that one. There's only got 425 views from 4 months ago. Another one's only got 352 views. Canada's Red Pill show 666 from January 30th. There are lots of other shows in there that you'd probably find interesting if you find these shows interesting. Because I don't want to have to cover everything that was in there. I just wanted to cover new stuff that I haven't covered yet. And I'm pretty sure I made the case that the Canada we have now is not necessarily the Canada I grew up in. And the Canada we have right now, and the Canada it's becoming, is not the Canada that our World War I and World War II veterans fought for. Because let's face it, right up until 1972, all immigration in Canada was European Christian. The earliest Europeans that got here coexisted just fine with the Mi'kmaq. And you've got the Liberals, and you've got people with the title Queen's Privy Council members and Queen's Council making decisions on behalf of Canadians, when in reality, they serve the Queen first. And the Queen, she's the Queen of what? The UK? The Queen of the Commonwealth? What's going on in the UK right now? Tommy Robinson was just thrown into jail. He was just switched jails into a predominantly Muslim jail. I wonder what will happen to him. And the same people that run that country are running our country. Remember who Justin Trudeau likes to chum with at the G7? Theresa May and Merkel. But Trump is the bad guy. Well, last time I checked, Trump isn't endorsing ANALSEX. Trump isn't endorsing animal husbandry. Trump isn't making little symbols with his hands that are known pedophile symbols, nor does he have the pedophile symbol on his foundation report. But yet I'm supposed to believe, well, because you're born in Canada, you have to stand up for Canada. Stand up for Canada. I'll stand up for Canada. I'll stand up for Canadians. But like hell, I'm going to stand up for any government leader, any person in power or in opposition that doesn't show me that they're a little ticked off at what's going on. I'd like one politician, just one, to propose leaving the Commonwealth. Even Doug Ford, you just won MP for Ontario. Well, are you really Canada's version of Trump? Are you really? Or was that just a ploy? Are you just another globalist? I'm done now. If you enjoyed this video, you may want to take a look at other videos you find on this page. Don't forget, if you like it, push the subscribe button under this video, and feel free to like and share with all your friends. Follow me on Twitter by following the link on this page. If you want to interact, feel free to post a comment, but please, no obscenities. Thanks for watching. Billy Joyce signing off and reminding you that I'm here to help you weather the storm.